the killer of the UnitedHealth CEO was apprehended. And the first clip that we have about that is just when he was being questioned. He was simply a person of interest. This is before I think they even released his name. But here's what it sounded like when that news broke.
And police are questioning a man in the nationwide manhunt for the killer of a healthcare CEO in New York. Joining us now for this breaking news is Brent Gingras. What are you learning?
Yeah, Pam, we're just getting this into our newsroom from sources telling John Miller and myself that there is a man being questioned right now in Altoona, Pennsylvania. That person is in police custody right now, undergoing that questioning by law enforcement officials. And what we've learned is pretty alarming. Basically, sources are telling us that working off of a tip, police stopped someone who was traveling by bus, and they were able to recover a suppressor, a number of fake IDs, according to one official. And also that same person is believed to also have fit the same description as all of those pictures that have been dispersed, of course, out into everywhere for people to help identify with this person. So this is a lot of information coming in right now. This is just breaking. Again, police questioning someone, a person in custody right now, believed to be possibly a suspect in this case responsible for that deadly shooting last Wednesday.
I don't think it looks like the same guy.
It doesn't. Well, the backpacks seem to be different, and they were showing us pictures of the original one. He had like a gray backpack and it had like gray straps, and then this guy didn't. And there were so many discrepancies. It was really weird. I know.
The whole thing is super weird. And then, of course, we've learned his name. There were more pictures that came out. His social media was available for a long time, which generally does not happen in these cases.
Right.
But we got to know an awful lot about him. There's a few pictures that we can show here, along with some biographical information that we'll just sort of let you see on the screen. But handsome guy, fit guy, super smart. He was valedictorian of his high school class. He's a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania. I think the next screenshot or the next headline talks more about his bio, the fact that he was super techie, and that he was an anti-capitalist. He was really into the Unabomber, super interested in that. Just there's a lot of weirdness. There was also the fact that he had a manifesto on his person about the healthcare industry. And so he talked about he also had the made with a 3D printer ghost gun on him.
And
like
silencer.
It's just super weird. And he comes from this like super wealthy resort owning family. His cousin is like a Maryland delegate. And there's a lot of question now. You can see the headline too on your screen about his cousin just not saying anything. And people are really questioning the family and their silence, because they obviously had to have known that their son was either unreachable or whatever. Well, and then they released a statement, the family, which is also very vague, saying, unfortunately, we cannot comment on news reports regarding Luigi Mangione. We only know what we have read in the media. Our family is shocked and devastated by his arrest. We offer our prayers to the family of Brian Thompson and ask people to pray for all involved. We are devastated by this news.
He's apparently been like missing for the past month
because of like a back injury.
Yeah, he had a spinal surgery or something that they said was traumatic, which I mean, I'm sorry, I had a spinal fusion and I didn't go shoot somebody, so you can't blame it on that. The kid had obvious issues. He also retweeted stuff about like anxiety and self-care. He was Mr. He was into climate change. He was like Mr. Let's get vaccinated. But he was also anti the healthcare industry. Like he was so pissed off at the healthcare industry. So there was a strange dichotomy there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially because they found him at McDonald's. So if you're going to be all pissed off at the healthcare industry and you're anti-capitalist, what you doing in a McDonald's?
Right. But that leads me to this question. Okay. And I got to ask you this. It's weird how a McDonald's employee was the one after a month. His family's like, you're missing, right? And listen, his face was everywhere. We've been talking about this for days. If you know that kid, if that's a family member of yours, you would know that was him. We all know that. Let's get real. If that were my sister, if that were your sister, you would be like, oh my God, that's Danielle. You know what I mean? I'd be like, oh my God, that's my sister. My question to you is, would you turn her in?
My sister?
Yeah. If you saw her up on a screen and you were like, she's a suspect in this, because let's face it, that's exactly what happened. His face was plastered everywhere. He has a gigantic family. Like I saw pictures of his huge Italian family, like at a family gathering. He's way in the back. Mm-hmm. I mean, aunts, uncles, grandmas, grandpas, moms, dads, kids everywhere, cousins everywhere. One of those people, at least probably a handful of them are like, holy shit, that's him, you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, would you turn your sister in?
Well, I would talk to her first. Like I'd want to say to her, did you do this? And go turn yourself in because I'm going to have to if you don't.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I would absolutely turn my sister in. Like without question. I mean, now I would, but like
even
now
if she
I
didn't
would
do it
because I don't really like her. But I mean, like I don't like her, so I totally turn her in. But But I'm thinking to myself, I'd want to protect her. I'd want to. Back in the day when I actually liked her, I would be like, if it were you, I'd be like, I'd want to protect Miriam.
You'd want to understand.
I'd want to understand. Again, I don't condone what he did, but families stick together, right? Families are like, well, we're just going to pretend we didn't see that picture.
That's what's so crazy.
It's nuts. It's totally nuts. Like, so I would exactly kind of like what you did. You would want to talk to that individual and you would want to be like, what is going on? That is obviously you in the picture. What are you doing? Like, what is going on? And I wonder if those conversations happened because
there were rumors that like people close to him, like friends wise, were unable to reach him for the last several weeks after the back injury or whatever.
Yeah.
And then there were rumors that he like dabbled in all kinds of psychedelic drugs to try to make himself feel better from whatever this back injury was. And that's what made him crazy. Because the weirdest thing about him is how normal he was up until this point.
Right.
Like how much he had going for him. He's the heir to like this unbelievable resort fortune.
Yeah.
He was super bright. Yeah. Like what would possess somebody to have this big of a meltdown?
He was basically privileged, this kid. He was freaking privileged. He had all everything going for him. He had everything like basically given to him. He had ultimate privilege, And then he's like, I'm going to go and just piss it away. I'm going to screw it up. He became a complete lunatic. And, I guess some brilliant people can also be lunatics, which, he could be one of those people.
Right.
But when it comes to like the family, I just could not believe that's one thing over the past couple of days. I just could not get over. I'm like, somebody recognizes this kid.
Yeah.
You know that they do. So there is a family thing where you're like, I love this person and I want to protect them. But at the same time, if they did something bad, I want to make sure that they are held accountable for.
Exactly.
Anyways, I just thought that was really crazy. We're going to obviously find out more, but man,
the story gets weirder and weirder from so many different angles too, because apparently Taylor Lorenz, who just lost another job, another gig that she had, like some podcast with, I forget what platform, Vox maybe, she lost that because she has been so absolutely psychotic about praising the killer and basically saying, oh yeah, we all want healthcare executives dead. We all wish them dead.
No.
And so she was following this guy on Twitter, which people pointed out. You can see in the screenshot, she cut off any replies to any of her tweets once people saw that she was connected to him. Super, super weird. And then she was on Piers Morgan, who laid into her about her delight over Brian Thompson's death. Here it is.
Good.
I do believe in the sanctity of life. And I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, because it feels like
joy.
I mean,
joy in a man's execution.
Maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy. Because again,
we're watching the footage. How can this make you joyful? This guy's a husband, he's a father, and he's being gunned down in the middle of Manhattan. Why does that make you joyful?
Of Americans that he murdered. So are the tens of thousands of Americans, innocent Americans, who died because greedy health insurance executives like this one push policies of denying care to the most vulnerable people. And the many millions of Americans that have watched people that I care about suffer and in some cases die because of lack of health care.
So should they all be killed then? Should they all be killed, these healthcare executives? Would that make you even more joyful?
No, that would not.
But why not?
And,
why are you laughing?
I think because it wouldn't fix the
You seem to find the whole thing hilarious.
I find your question funny.
A bloke's been murdered in the street.
Oh my God.
I don't find it funny at all.
I don't find it funny that tens of thousands of Americans die every year and because they are denied life-saving healthcare from people like the CEO. Now, I want to fix the system. You're right. We shouldn't be going around shooting each other with vigilante justice. No.
Right.
I think that it is a good thing that this murder has led to America, or really the media elites and politicians in this country paying attention to this issue for the first time. You mentioned you couldn't understand why somebody would feel this reaction when they watched a CEO die. It's because you have not dealt, it sounds like, with the American healthcare system in the way that millions of other Americans have.
I've dealt with the healthcare system in various ways in America. I don't think it's perfect by any means, but the idea that I would view it as something...
Have you been denied life-saving?
Hang on. The idea that I would view it as something joyful, that a man who's just a healthcare executive, has been executed in the street, I find completely bizarre.
It's good that he finds it completely bizarre because she's a freaking lunatic.